Everything up here today and getting things rocking and rolling. BT, Ninth Amendment Party.com. Welcome, Bonnie and Bobby and Milt and Alicia. Appreciate all you tuning in tonight. We're going to be talking about interpretation of the Constitution tonight and different aspects of what our founding fathers believed in and the direction our country's gone and the return to our country back to a republic form of government as established by our founding fathers. And so the first thing I'd like to talk about is areas of twofold problems where we, the people of the United States of America, in the preamble, have basically deserted the Constitution in many ways. The people's elected and appointed officials have debased the Constitution. In other words, they've say they are committed to it and devoted to it, but in reality, they're not. There's a lot of usurption of the Constitution. And if we truly value our freedom that we have left within this country, then we have to regain our rights that we've lost. And I believe that the current administration today is working hard on returning those rights back to the general population of we, the people. And we must understand the destructive mentality and the philosophy that's gripped so many Americans over this time frame. And one of the areas that we have to look at within that aspect of time frame is how do we move forward when the country seems to be in a little bit of still chaos and not a lot of things are being brought forth within the general population so they can see. And so one of the things that we like to look at is God, the Spirit of God, the Son of God. We hold from God the gift which includes all others. This gift is life, physical, intellectual, and moral life. Life, facilities, production, in other words, individuality, liberty, property. This is man. This is what God created in his image. And in spite of all the political leaders, those three gifts come from God and not from the human legislation that believe that they are superior to it. So when we look at government today, was government initiated to control us? Was it initiated to be a central part of just keeping law and order, constitutional law and order, not color of law through statutes and policies and ordinances and taxation without representation, things of this nature. And so the constitutional law is codified in biblical law. And within that aspect of biblical law, we have to protect our rights as well as the rights of others. And the main is we have to choose to really be free. And to constitute a free and open society, we have to be able to serve our God. We have to be able to find that God light within us to understand that we are of God, that we are in his image. And again, there's God the Father, God the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and they're all one. And so we have to be able to look inside ourselves to be able to understand where we are going within this decade of crucial change, not just in our country, but around the world. And so as we look forward and we look at the aspect of the drafting of the Constitution, it was a legal framework that was proposed, okay? It was brought forth to prevent corruption within government, within a society that was deemed free. Unalienable rights, unalienable rights, as I'd like to refer to them. God gave us those rights, and those rights are not of commerce in definition. Now, inalienable with an I are rights that are bestowed upon each living man and woman, sons and daughters, that are a permission from government. In other words, your driver's license, you have a permission to travel. Unless you don't get a driver's license, then we're going to throw you in jail. Or if you don't pay your property taxes, we're going to steal your home. Or we're going to continue to mandate vaccines, or you'll go to a concentration camp. Now, these are principles that are all under color of law. And color of law is established throughout not just our country, but around the world as a whole. And when we look at color of law, it looks like law, smells like law, sounds like law, but it usurps the Constitution. So it's not law. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. And we have to be able to understand the division of the powers, from the legislative to the executive to the judiciary powers that we all have in this aspect of truth. And so when we move into the aspect of understanding where we're at, where has government actually usurped the Constitution? Where did government become the lawbreaker? Okay. Now, the founding fathers knew that basically the responsibility of government was not to serve like a watchdog, but to mean a free society, to create a free society of free individuals working together, providing good help, good health care, good education. These were all goals of the founding fathers. The purpose of government is to assure the necessity, the ability to maintain freedom. Freedom is brought through self-responsibility. It's also brought through a voluntary exchange within the free market and the initiatives that we have. Government has the responsibility of the framework that allow individuals to achieve prosperity and dignity on their own. Okay? We can't ask for dignity from the government. We have to create it within ourselves, and we can. Because again, we are of spirit, we are of light, we are of individual necessity connected to God's source. The founding fathers were not men who felt that the purpose of government was to formulate or achieve goals for a nation that took away our rights, our freedom. And there's, different ways to spell freedom, Freedumb is how a lot of people look at freedom because they don't really understand it. Okay. We have to take the time to work together and move forward in a manner where we support freedom, that we are free within ourselves first. Because we can't go out and talk to our local community, our council people, our sheriffs, our police force, our firefighters, the people who are in this political municipality of corporation structure, unless we understand what freedom is and the ability to look within to recognize that we are free. If you believe you are free, what are you doing to maintain your freedom? Are you doing it through prayer? Are you doing it through action? What are you actually doing to maintain freedom? Now, Thomas Jefferson is one of my favorite, as far as within that founding fathers and things of this nature. And he made a quote that said, "Fellow citizens, a wise and frugal government, which shall restrain men from injuring one another, shall leave them otherwise free to regulate their own pursuits of industry and improvement, and shall not take from the mouth of the labor the bread it has earned. This is the sum of good government." Now think about that. The main part of that whole paragraph that I just read deals with injury. Okay? How do you injure the state when the state comes after you within a court case? Where is the state an actual injured party? It can't be. It's a commercial entity. But yet, under color of law, which is actually usurping the Constitution, and it's been that way for decades and almost a century, I would say, how do we protect ourselves within that area? How have we, the American people, strayed from the Constitution? And I'm not here to poke and be mean to the government and things of this nature, but we're here to speak our truths. And I think each and every one of you have those truths within inside you. The question is, are you willing to step out of that comfort zone and speak your truth? The Constitution itself is above the government. Think of what I'm saying. The preamble is we the people. We created government. But what government has done over the last 100 years, since about 1913, and a little bit before then, actually in 1871, when the country, the United States of America, the free America, became a corporation within the District of Columbia known as Washington, D.C. What do you think D.C. stands for? District of Columbia, okay? That's a commercial structure of government, a municipality of corporation status that was created. And since that time frame, we've had a lot of changes in our country. 1913, we came in with the Federal Reserve, which took away our ability to control the financial system of our country. As things progressed, we go into 1933, where the Security Act came into effect, where every man and woman who created in God's image as well, their sons and daughters, were placed into this trust format within the government. And this trust format in the government put each and every living man, woman, son, and daughter into a commercial status, no longer made by God, but created by government, to be able to have the side-by-side structure of a corporation and a corporation of government, because you have to be in the same style of jurisdiction. And within that jurisdiction, what happened was we started finding that enemy within our political system, the office holders of we the people, okay? The office holders are meant to have the constituents of the general population of who they are representing, and also have that ability to recognize within themselves that the Constitution is what created government, and to be a supporter of the Constitution, not a usurper of the Constitution. They're referred to in today's society, not just by myself, but by many aspects within the books behind me and within the political realms, as foreign agents. And a foreign agent is not of the true United States of America constitutional form, republic form of government. The foreign agent is a commercial status working out of the District of Columbia through a compact, which is actually a contract to each and every state. And then the state implies and puts it into a position into the county level of that state. And then the county puts that level into every city or town or municipality or unincorporated area within that community. And so it's a tier of usurpation that has begun many, many years ago. And the thing that we have to understand is, do our elected officials, and we're coming up to the, election here pretty soon here, for the primary. And so do they really understand what the Constitution stands for? Are they willing to hold a position and go against their other people that are in the political positions that they might be working with to make sure that the Constitution stays number one? Are they willing to do those types of things? Because again, it is important to recognize if they're not willing to stand up to the Constitution and support it, then they're really not working for we the people, okay? We have to have a firm appreciation for the Constitution. We have to have a clear understanding of what the Constitution means, what it provides the government's ability to do, as well as what it provides the men and women the ability to have unalienable rights versus privileges in inalienable circumstances. So, enemies of the Constitution. Who are those enemies of the Constitution? Well, like it or not, many of those enemies of the Constitution are we the people, because we haven't stuck and learned our rights within that constitutional principles, and we've elected officials in the same manner. That's a hard one to swallow, but it's the truth. If we don't understand the Constitution and don't understand the ability that it provides freedom, not spelled dumb, but freedom, and we don't have the understanding of the Ninth Amendment, okay, because that's the rights that are bestowed upon the people, that everything in the Constitution that hasn't been said, the people determine within their own individual self. Remember that. You determine your rights, not government. God gave you all the rights, everything in the world that you can do, as long as you don't cause injury to somebody else or to Mother Nature or to somebody's property. Like it or not, the Constitution allows individual freedom. And yeah, sometimes individual freedom can be taken into a manner where that individual destroys their own life. In our American Indian tradition, we have what we call intervening, just like every other culture does. But in our tradition, we only intervene once. That we find that there's a circumstance with that individual that's having problems, then we bring that to that individual once and allow them to realize that, hey, we care. We want to maintain the integrity that we have with God, our integrity that we have within our relationship with that individual. And then we let it go. Because again, we're not here to control each individual's destiny. That's part of the Constitution. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Just because your pursuit of happiness might be different than mine doesn't mean my pursuit of happiness is wrong, and vice versa. We have to take that into consideration under the Republic form of government. Just think, if we allowed people to be who they are, as long as they didn't injure somebody else or injure property, and had the ability to really find God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit within themselves and within their life paths that they have chosen, where do you think this world would be? I don't believe it would be chaotic, and I don't believe it would be in an area where it'll be a free-for-all, okay? Yes, there has to be some uniformity, but at the same time, uniformity doesn't give individual rights or the individual man or woman, son or daughter, the ability to learn through experience. And experience is one of the biggest learning principles that we all should understand. Because if we understand the learning principle, then we grow up in a whole different mindset. I mean, think of the times when you was little, okay? And maybe perhaps you had a grandkid over or son, or maybe it was yourself and somebody told you, hey, don't be sticking your finger in that electric socket over there. And you just didn't listen. And so finally you stick your finger in there and you got shocked. Or they said, don't put your hand on that burner, it'll burn you, it'll hurt you. And you touched it and it hurt you. You don't do that again. You learn, okay? We're here to learn on a physical plane, but maintain the spiritual knowledge that God has given each and every one of us. And when we look at the preamble of the Constitution, we, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, and promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Now let's take a look at that, okay? We, the people, in order to form a more perfect union. In other words, coming together as one energy, okay? To establish justice. That's where injury comes in. We are establishing justice in the form where, as long as we're not causing injury to somebody else or to Mother Nature, then we should have the ability to live according to our belief within God the Father, God the Son, and the Holy Spirit. When we talk about tranquility and to provide for the common defense, we should have the ability to live within a secure environment, knowing that our brothers and sisters would come to our rescue if we needed them. Also, at the same time, we have to look at the general welfare. And that's something we're going to touch base on here a little bit further as we move on to this, because I think the general welfare of definition today is definitely not what the constitutional founding fathers believed, okay? It's totally different. But legislative individuals, Congress and senators and people in the local communities have taken that general welfare and turned it into something that it really wasn't designed. And that's something we have to really look at as we move back to a republic form of government. Blessings of liberty, okay, to ourselves and prosperity. Okay, blessings of liberty to ourselves. What gives you the ability to have blessings? Faith. Sometimes it's family. Sometimes it's education. Sometimes it's your ability to have the knowledge of how to work properly, create revenue for your home, or through barter or through payments, whatever that case may be. To ordain. Okay? Think of this, ordain. You know, a lot of pastors and preachers and, are ordained. Think of that. They're ordained. They're given that ability. They're given that right. So we have given that right to the Constitution for our country, for this great country. Now, when we look at Article 1, Section 8 within the Constitution, it mentions the general welfare. Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. Okay? So, they do have the ability to collect taxes. Okay? The question is, are those taxes being collected correctly? Presently today, taxes are being not correctly in the system of the Federal Reserve. See, all of our taxes go to the Federal Reserve, which is a separate entity, not even part of our original government. And it goes to pay the interest. And within these taxes, they send our money overseas to other countries and make these other countries whole, while our country has been basically destroyed for centuries. Okay? Within this aspect of taxation. Now, our country was originally founded off of this reason of taxation, because there was no representation. That's what the Boston Tea Party was about. Okay? We have to, as Americans, understand that the general welfare is to make sure that we are ensuring justice, that we are creating personal freedom, that we have the ability to recognize what lawmakers are actually criminals. Okay? And we have to take that ability to make sure that they aren't elected. It's very important for our country to recognize that we have it within the president aspect, where they have to be born here in our country. that they have to have a parent, at least one, that was also born here in this country to represent our country. Presently today, we have many people in the political realm who don't even qualify within those three areas in a city, a county, and a state level. Okay? Where's the allegiance? Do they have allegiance? A lot of times politicians will come in and they'll claim one thing, say another, and at the same time, behind the scenes are usurping the Constitution. Not for our good, but for the good of the welfare of other countries, other cultures. Look at the Somali situation. Okay? Look at the fraud, not just within that culture, but in many cultures. Okay? Welfare, fraud. General welfare. Okay? When the founding fathers said, we the people established the Constitution to promote the general welfare, they didn't mean that the federal government would have the power to aid education, build roads, subsidize businesses, all these other things, okay? They didn't mean that. But yet, the government has put themselves in a position where the American people rely on government. That's not what God intended. That's not what our true spiritual path is. Who are we supposed to rely on? Number one, our faith. If you have your faith, God's not going to give you something that you can't overcome. Okay? I've overcome a lot of things. I'm sure many of you have overcome a lot of things. The question is, how come does Congress, the legislatures, think that they have the right to tax you to benefit somebody else who's not willing to go to work simply because they're lazy? You know, when I grew up, there was insane asylums. You know, we used to call them mental wards or the cuckoo house. You know, and then they did away with all them. Then you have all these people on the streets who actually need really some help. You know, look at California, look at Washington, look at Oregon. Look at some of the other states around that are warm, because that's where normally a lot of these people end up because they can live on the streets. And when I was going through my situation of spirituality, and Spirit came to me and said, hey, BT, you need to understand the compassion for these people on the streets. And so I went out and lived on the streets with these people, ate out of garbage cans, did all sorts of stuff to see what it was like. And the thing that I came out with was the majority of these people really don't want help. That's their path. That's what they believe is their path. And many of them aren't hurting anybody other than themselves. And that's their path. And the compassion that we have to understand is, if that's their path and they choose that path, who am I to take them away from their path? That's their faith, their belief. Do I owe it to them? Intervention one time. Remember what I said, one time. If you find somebody on the streets and you believe you can help them, or you find somebody who's addicted to drugs, you believe they can help them, or alcohol, or, you know, domestic violence, or, you know, any of these things, okay? And you talk to them one time and you try to get that situation. And they choose not to. You've done your right as an individual spiritual, as what some people might refer to as a Christian, what others might refer to as a layperson. You've made an attempt and allowed the dominoes to fall where they fall. You know, it wasn't easy living on the streets, that I can tell you. And it isn't something that I really wanted to do, but Spirit said, hey, BT, you need to do this. A lot of times we get Spirit talking to us and we don't realize it's really Spirit talking to us. that discernment. Our ego comes in. Oh, well, I wasn't supposed to do this, but I did it anyway. I went against what Spirit actually gave me the discernment to know. Doesn't matter if it's buying that new car, buying a new house, traveling down the road, whatever the case may be. If you're getting the word of God and you're not listening, there's going to be some karmic energy down the road. Just know that. I've experienced it. I'm sure many have. Okay. When I grew up and I went through all my different aspects of life, there were many instances where I had to step back and really reevaluate. But then Spirit would have me do things that I thought, man, why do you have me do these things, Spirit? And it wasn't necessarily for me to have the education of what I was doing, but for me to understand that Spirit will take us down a path that many are afraid to go down because we have to look at our own self-reflection. We have to set aside our ego. We have to set aside how others are going to think of you. I remember the first time I told somebody, yeah, I was homeless for a couple of years because Spirit asked me to be. They looked at me and thought, man, you're crazy, dude. Okay. Sometimes Spirit will say, hey, I want you to, take care of that person down the street there and help them out. They're having a hard time. Sometimes Spirit might send an angel to you. And that angel might knock on the door in the middle of winter and ask you straight up, hey, you got any food? Got something that'll keep me warm? And if you're not listening to Spirit and you slam that door, and come to find out a little bit later that was an angel coming to you, how do you think Spirit's going to look at you? How do you think God, the Father's going to look at you? How are you going to feel within yourself? Because that's where God the Father, God the Son, and the Holy Spirit lives, is inside you. You're going to have shame. You're going to have guilt. You're going to have fear. You're going to have a lot of resentment towards yourself. And that's not what we're here for. Okay? The founding fathers, within the aspect of establishing Congress, establishing the judiciary system, establishing the aspect of where does the Constitution get misinterpreted, okay? Where do we misinterpret the Constitution as men and women, free men and women? The founding fathers and the Constitution are basically our foundation of our country. And the Ninth Amendment pretty well says it all, that the power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution or prohibited by the states or reserved to the states or to the people. If it's not said, doesn't mean we don't have those rights. Okay? Jefferson, Franklin, some of the presidents that we've had in the past were good and some were bad. Will we ever know who was who? Some may tell us that they were good, and some may tell us that they were bad. But it boils back down to legislation, Congress. Congress assumes powers beyond the intent of our founders. Okay? Congress feels that they can go ahead and create and determine what's healthy for you, what's good for you, who can go to a bathroom, who can't. The Constitution has been twisted and mishandled by Congress, by the legislators, by the judicial branch, and by the executive branch in many ways. Okay? Look at what Biden went through during his term. Look at Nixon. Look at Carter. Look at Reagan. Look at John F. Kennedy. Look at each and every one of these individuals that I've just named. and do your research. Eisenhower, Truman. Truman said it best. If you can't stand the heat in the kitchen, get out. That's where all these legislation people that are getting out of, political realm can't stand the heat in the kitchen, because right now Trump's in the kitchen. And Trump's making his own cake, because that cake's going to be tasting really good for us American people. He ain't putting just a bunch of salt in it to make it sound and taste awful. He's got to put a little bit of this and a little bit of that through every aspect that he's working towards in this time frame that he has. He even put in a case there into the Supreme Court saying, you know what, during my first presidency, I wasn't given the ability to be a president. I think I should be able to have 4 more years. Then if you know that. Another area, okay? The advice that we share with one another. All of us have our own ability to recognize within ourselves what we determine is good and what is evil. Okay? Child abuse, good or evil? Let's look at it from a standpoint of you did something wrong and your parent pulled you aside, gave you a little spanking, didn't beat you up, didn't leave a bruise, but just kind of put you in your place. Is that child abuse, or is that raising you so you recognize right from wrong? There's a limit to everything. And I'm not saying go out and smack your kid around or anything like that. Everybody can handle things different. And that's up to you, the parent, the mother and the father. But legislation, Congress, county, family court systems of today are so corrupt. They're nothing but basically farming kids out to make money, to take parents and destroy livelihoods, financial situations, things of this nature. Those are things we got to look into, because right now, within every community that has family services, there's wrongs being done in that community. And you might even know somebody who's gone through that system and can tell you about those wrongs. And if you don't, talk to somebody, be part of your community, ask the right questions. When we look at our government and we look at Madison, James Madison, okay? He's the father of the Constitution. He understood that government interference threatens freedom and private property. That is not a just government, nor is it nor is it property secure under it. Okay. If the government taxes you on property that you've paid and already paid taxes, how is it yours? It becomes the government's. Because if you don't pay that, the government will take it. We have to go back to an area where there is no property tax. Doesn't matter your age. If you own that property outright and you're not in a commercial status, through mortgage, things of this nature, then you shouldn't be paying property taxes, period. Now, when you're under a mortgage, that puts you into a commercial agreement. And right now, all the cities, states, counties, all operate under a commercial entity. Just look at your local area. Your name's in all caps. Hampton County in all capital letters. Barnwell County in all capital letters. Ada County in all capital letters. Think of what I'm saying, okay? Take the opportunity to go and research what is important within our courts today. And right now, one of the things that we've been going through, and Trump's been bringing this forward so many people can see, is that our court systems have been usurped by a lot of these liberal people who are protecting violations of the Constitution. Okay. This United States Supreme Court has even undermined the constitutional aspect of law in some cases. We have to have that ability to look at it from the aspect of plunder, legal plunder, because the government today operates under legal plunder. They're pirates. How are they pirates? Well, commerce is of the water. And if the water is on the land and these county officials, state officials, city officials, national officials are all working under commerce because the government is a corporation and they're of the water and they're taking from you, plundering you through taxes, through areas of courts, just to generate revenue. They're plundering you. They're piracy. It's piracy. And there's even federal law that says they can't do it. The government of the Union depends almost entirely upon legal fiction. Okay. Now imagine that it's possible to get help in legal fictions to prevent men from finding out or employing the means of gratifying their passions which have been left open to them so they can have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. As an entity, they make it difficult. As a living man and woman under a republic form of government, under unalienable rights that God gave us, it shouldn't be difficult. Which would you prefer? Which are you willing to stand up to and move in a direction where you feel secure? You know, powers not delegated that are reserved to the states. Thomas Jefferson, I consider the foundation of the Constitution is laid on this ground, that all powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states or to the people. To take a single step beyond the boundaries thus specially drawn around the powers of Congress is to take possession of boundless field of power, no longer susceptible to any definition. Thomas Jefferson. He's quoting about the 10th Amendment and the 9th. That's where we're at today. That's where we're cleaning up this whole aspect of Congress and things of this nature. Many of you, and some of you might know, and some of you might not know, the majority of people in Congress and within the Senate are all basically doppelgangers at this point. It's a movie. A lot of masks, doubles. Some people even say clones. Our local communities, the people who are in charge of our local communities, for the most part, really don't understand what's taking place. They don't see because they don't hear. They don't hear because they don't listen. Trump says it many times. You know, he talks about the movie, central casting. He talks about he's been shot when he references Joe Biden. He was shot. Where, when, and how can you, my brothers, my sisters, be able to share information with people who are closed-minded? Their pituitary glands blocked due to fluoride and all these other aspects of environmental conditions that People don't take them, their health seriously. Right now, in my personal belief, there ain't much we can do to teach others because the movie's almost ending. And when we come out the other side and all these things are being shown to us and given to us, like all of our debt being forgiven, all the money that was stolen from us from the Federal Reserve through the IRS and taxation given back to us, and all these things take place, people aren't going to really care. That's what I think. That's what I've been given. Because again, if you are in a situation of prosperity, then your life has changed dramatically. The question is, what are you going to do after you're given that prosperity? You're going to hold it to yourself? You're going to share it with others? You're going to create a legacy? What are you actually going to do? Because again, it's important to know that our Father, our God, our spiritual entity within us is going to lead us into the light of liberty. We're going to have that ability for decades to live a whole new platform of life. The legacies that we dreamed about, that we brought forth into reality due to this new change coming within this decade. Many people think that, once everybody gets this money, that, people are going to be lazy. There's a lot of lazy people out there already, people, so I don't know how many more people could be lazy. I think if you're truly looking to better yourself, you're going to be better in your community as well. You're going to be giving back. And many people that I know that are involved in foreign currencies, Bitcoin, all these different things, cryptocurrencies, many of them want to give back into their local communities. It isn't just about them being financially secure. It's about how to make our community a better way for future generations. Because those future generations are going to live long, a lot longer than most people even realize. In the biblical terms, people lived 600, 800 years, 1,000. How could that be, we ask ourselves? Just think. Will that return? Well, it could. And if it does, which I believe it shall, what are you going to do with the knowledge that you have to be able to help future generations never to return back into a society that we are coming out of? Color of law, corrupt system of government, servitude, no moral rights, no moral beliefs. How are you going to react when the change occurs? Personally, myself, I think each and every one of us are pretty close to being positive for others. Having the ability to share our stories, to share our knowledge, to share our commitment and devotion to society after we found who we are as men and women individually. I know God's blessed me, and I know there's times where I really didn't understand why God blessed me. And I'm sure some of you might think the same. And there's times where I've had struggle, but it made me a better man. And I'm sure some of you have had that same opportunity of struggle, which have made you a better living man or woman, son or daughter. We'll never have anything given to us that we can't overcome. It's a matter of choice. It's a matter of forgiveness. It's a matter of finding peace within ourselves through our faith, through our family, love them or hate them, you know, through the education, let it be book smart, street smart, finding that peace. Once you find that peace and you understand what it's about, the Constitution becomes very simple. It's about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Without anybody telling you what you can be, where you can go, how you have to live your life, that you must have permission from government. That's not what the Constitution is about. So I take each and every one of you out there for tuning in tonight. It's 8:30. It's another wonderful Thursday. I think that if you have any questions, I'm going to go ahead and open it up for comment. And we'll go from there. So let me go ahead and see what we can do here. And we got Lydia. You have any comments or questions there, Lydia? Okay. I'll go to Alicia. If you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to unmute yourself, ask a question.
Good evening.
Yes, I can hear you. Hello?
Yes, can you hear me well?
Yes, we can, ma'am. Yes, we can.
All right, good evening to everybody. I just have a question. How does the overturning of the Chevron doctrine come into play? Because even though it's a lot of paperwork, I've been trying to sit through it and read it.
Now, say that again because you're breaking up a little bit. Which doctrine are you referring to?
The Chevron doctrine.
I'm still not the Clearfield doctrine. Is that what you're saying?
The Chevron doctrine.
Yeah, are you referring to the Chevron doctrine? Is that a yes or a no?
Yes, I'm gonna type it in because I'm breaking up because I'm driving.
Okay, yeah. Put it in the chat and I'll open it up and see what it is because you're really breaking up. I can't understand which doctrine you're referring to. I know that a lot of people are looking at the Chevron doctrine right now, which deals with the Administrative Act and the ability that courts can't interpret the law through administrative help anymore. And so the Chevron doctrine itself is one of the biggest cases in our history to actually be in a position where we, the people, can now actually go in and create a tort claim, so to speak, and file it against the government entities that have violated, like family services and different things of this nature. Again, many years, the judges have been utilized and the administrative agencies to determine what the law is. And that's not what the court systems should have ever done. And it being overturned opens up a whole new broad ability for class action lawsuits. It's not being utilized as often as I would think it should be since the case law has come to effect. But I think as we progress down the road here in this decade here, I think many people will come back utilizing that within tort claims individual as well as full class action lawsuits dealing with everything from the spraying of our atmosphere, creating diseases within our lungs and things of this nature through geoengineering through aspects of vaccines, all these areas. I really think the Chevron doctrine will be a benefit to society once more people start understanding and utilizing it. But the thing that we have to remember right now is that the majority of judges, okay, on a state level, not on a federal level, but on a state level, aren't real happy about that Chevron doctrine being overturned. And so a lot of times within the state levels, the county levels, I personally have gone through some of those situations where, I've worked with others and helped them. And the court systems do not want to take the bull by the horn, so to say, and follow the United States Supreme Court decision that did away with the Chevron doctrine originally. So it's going to be a battle until we can get these judges who are, in many cases, in many states, appointed and so forth, where we can get this done. And so it's gonna take some time. But again, I believe the Chevron doctrine is a positive move of being overturned and so forth. And there's a lot of case law right now that's coming out dealing with that. And so if you'd like, I don't know if you're on our Facebook stuff, but if you go ahead and join the Ninth Amendment Party on the Facebook, I'll put some Chevron doctrine stuff in our files. And then that way you can go ahead and utilize some of the information that we have on it. Okay, Mr. Melt, any questions? All right, I guess Mr. Melt's doing fine. Bobby, do you have any questions this evening? You have to unmute if you have a question. Miss Bonnie, any questions for tonight?
I had to say something.
Well, I'm always grateful for somebody saying something,
That's right. Well, I'm thankful and grateful, and I can't wait for the stuff that Trump's fixing to reveal on July the 4th. I can't wait. And I hope it's got something to do with money. But we'll see.
Well, I honestly see the future being very bright. I honestly see the currencies of reevaluation of currencies around the world being something that's going to bring a lot of prosperity, not just to our country, but to many countries. I think we're definitely moving in the right direction. There's a lot of areas there that people are having questions in regards to, are we going to really, step out of the Iran situation, the Venezuela situation, what's going to be taking place with Cuba? All these things are questions that people are asking right now. And again, we have to take into consideration that this is not just a movie being played out, but it's like a 3D chess set. And it's actually like a 6D chess set, 7D chess set, because the implementation of each of these individuals who Trump's put in positions, and then through different reasons, they've stepped out of those positions. I honestly believe that's all part of the movie. And some of these people who, he's put in positions that were addressed as negative people, they had some negative aspects, so to speak, and he still put them in positions. I think that's all part of their pay, their payout, so to speak. Not just the plan, but if you've done something corrupt and you're part of this situation of this reassessment of our government, and you were given the opportunity to go out in a good point versus a bad point, I think a lot of these people have taken that position. Let it be them or even their doppelgangers playing them, because again, they can't trust these people, so they have a doppelganger in there, somebody playing the role, I think that's happening a lot. And not just in the aspect of the people that surrounded, Trump, but even in different levels within our state governments. And so that's something we have to consider. Uh,
Okay.
okay,
Okay.
thank you. And so again, people, I appreciate your time this evening. It's been a good talk. Again, stay firm, stay strong, believe in faith, let your faith guide you. And again, just do your research, find out who you see through the discernment that God's given you through that aspect of the spiritual identity that's within each of us, and follow your heart. There's not going to be a wrong way or a right way during this primary or this, upcoming election. Okay. There's not. It's already been predetermined, I believe. And I think that whoever gets in is meant to get in, and whoever isn't, isn't. But there's a lot of states right now that are still having a lot of difficulty within their corrupt voting systems. And I think South Carolina is one of them. And so I think, no matter what happens and who gets in, I think it's going to be pretty much followed by people in higher levels to see who actually was voted in versus who was actually put in. And I think that's something we have to consider here in South Carolina. From what I've seen and what I've talked to other people, and just some of the research that we've done here on a local and state level. And so just be strong, have patience, and again, I know patience is a little difficult at times because again, we always want to see things fast. That's part of the new energies that we, started coming out ever since fast food was around and microwave dinners and all that kind of stuff, but realize, it only tastes good if grandma bakes it the old fashioned way, and that takes time. Okay, people. So we love you. God bless. And BT signing out. NinthAmendmentParty.com. Have a good night.